So when I went to college, I was asked to read so much stuff that I had never read before, like read Genesis of the Bible in a week. That's very, very difficult to do. I had never read the Bible, and the language of Genesis, the original language, even if it's translated into English, is really difficult to understand. You can be a biology major, and you will have to be able to read some social theorists, some political theorists, right? Because we all live in a social and political society. So those reading skills were just completely not built in me during school. And I think like that's a big one that we're trying to build at RECO. Also helping students understand, um, that there's so much scholarship out there and that reading is really something that colleges value for a reason. And I think that that's also completely tied up with critical thinking. It's not just being able to like literally read, like you can't read a memo and say that you develop the reading skills at college looking for. You have to be able to develop the ability to ask critical questions of that reading, etc. as well.
Hello everyone, joining me today is a very special guest, Paritosh Kanoria. Paritosh is the founder of RECO Education, which offers project-based liberal arts courses for students in grade 8th to 12th to explore big questions across economics, technology, culture, and more. After graduating with a 45 on 45 in the IBDP, Paritosh went on to earn a BA from Stanford, where he won prizes in architectural history and religion. He then attended U Chicago on a full scholarship, earning a MA in Divinity and a certificate in education. Before founding RECO, Paritosh managed programs for high schoolers, including the YSP, the Young Scholars Program, and Horizons at Ashoka. And he was also an admissions associate at Stanford. Alongside RECO, he is currently involved in setting up Nayanta University in Pune. Paritosh, it's such a pleasure to have you with us here today.
Thank you, Devesh. Likewise.
So we'll straight away jump into the questions. And my first question to you is take us through the journey of your life. You went to Stanford, then you went to U Chicago, and then you also got an opportunity to work at Ashoka. How did these different experiences inspire you to design the programs at RECO?
Right. So I think one of the really big topics that we're interested in at RECO is the question of the connection between education and purpose. And I think that's particularly relevant for liberal arts education, where you have a very wide range of choices that you need to make as a student. So it's an educational system where you have a lot of agency given to the student. And the way that this shows up is that every term students have to choose 4 or 5 or 3 courses that they're going to take. And the options that they have are in the thousands. So now when it comes to how do you make that choice, you make that based on a sense of personal purpose. And for that reason, purpose is really important at RECO education. I think my interest in the question of purpose comes from my time at Stanford. I majored in art history, and I really enjoyed my research, especially in my last 2 years, which I was doing on South Indian temples there. But when I graduated, I felt really confused about what to do next. Obviously, there was one option, which was to kind of become a scholar in the field of art history. But people kept asking me, what is the value of this field? What is the purpose of your degree? How is this really contributing to society and things like that? And I felt like there was some value to this degree and to everything that I had done, but I wasn't able to articulate it, and I really wanted to. And for that reason, I began to broadly think about these questions between the connection between education and purpose. So I think that really became sort of central to what we do at RECO. A second experience that was really formative took place at U Chicago. So by the time I had gone to U Chicago, I had decided that I wanted to either start a company or a nonprofit in the field of education, liberal education, and especially to help high schoolers kind of prepare before going to liberal arts colleges because the gap between school and college is really large. So while I was at U Chicago, I also decided to do a certificate in education alongside my main MA in religion. And in my certificate, I had to write a thesis, and what I decided to do for that was actually organize an experiment. And what I did was I got my friends who were PhD students at U Chicago to teach a set of sessions on the topic of who am I to a few high school students in India. So we had one session that was taught by a literature student. So who am I from a literature standpoint? Who am I from a political standpoint? Who am I from a philosophical standpoint? And that was really, really interesting. And but after the essay, after the sort of workshop, what happened was that the students said that, this was really great, but what we actually want to do is come up with our own topics. And they were really adamant about that. And I think that that played a large role in helping me understand the point of student-centered education and how important it is for students to come up with their own topics. And that's a huge part of what we do at RECO as well. So in our courses, it always starts up with a discovery call of an hour one-on-one between me and a student. And we really just try to figure out, what is something that the student would actually be passionate about working on. So that's the second sort of main influence for me. And then when I was at Ashoka, I was managing the Young Scholars Program, and we had relaunched Ashoka Horizons, which are the online programs for high school students. And that I really understood more about the daily lives of high school students in Bombay, the expectations that parents have of high school students. So more, I would say, on the organizational and business side of things.
Fantastic. What really attracts my attention is you really studied some very, very unique majors, and you already spoke about how people were asking you what's the value in art history and divinity. But I truly believe, I'm a big proponent of liberal arts education. I've been working with hundreds of students who who have gained a liberal arts education or who are working towards gaining a liberal arts education. And I strongly believe the in the world of AI, or in the world of this massive, fast-paced technological advancement, students with a liberal arts degree do phenomenally well. And I can see how all these different things, when you brought them together into creating these programs, and also hearing to a student's feedback,
Yes.
I think that really, uh, I'm sure you found that very valuable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Paritosh, what is RECO Education all about? Take us through your top three programs and what makes your offerings unique.
Okay. I think RECO is broadly about helping high schoolers. Maybe I can just zoom out. So liberal arts education is not something that India is used to. Right? The first liberal arts education college that was started in India was just about 10 years ago with Ashoka University. At the same time, Indians have been sending um, their children and themselves abroad for degrees at colleges like Stanford and Harvard and UCLA and Dartmouth, etc., which offered liberal arts programs. But oftentimes, what I've found is that people send their children to these great universities because they know that these universities are great and they're not wrong, but they don't know so much about the actual system of liberal arts education in terms of what does a student's typical quarter look like? What are course credits? How is a major constructed? How many classes are required? How many classes are not required? Which subjects do you need to take classes in as a mandatory? And how many of those sort of general requirements do you need to meet? So all of this, so this whole thing is very different to the Indian educational landscape, which is characterized more by higher education institutions where you choose a particular course and you just study one course during your BA or BCom or BSc or whatever bachelor's degree you do, right? So I think RECO is interested in broadly helping students understand what liberal arts education is, and parents understand that, and then prepare themselves properly to transition to the system if that's the direction that they're going in. We realized that we wanted to do a different program for grades 8 and 9 and different programs for grades 10 to 12. So for grades 8 to 9, we have a program called RECO Spark. And the whole purpose of RECO Spark is to help you basically kickstart this entire journey of understanding this new kind of education system and also navigating the outside school requirements when it comes to college applications and project building and all of that. So these are cohort-based classes. So they happen in the college seminar style method where you have 12 students in a classroom and in one instructor. In over 2 months, basically what students do for the first 4 weeks is that they work in a cohort of 12 with an instructor on real case studies of different social problems. The first course that we're offering is called Research for Problem Solving. It's being taught by a PhD student in sociology at Ashoka. And in the first 4 weeks, the students are going to be tackling 4 different case studies that the instructor has already decided and designed a course around, sessions around. So there's health, education, air pollution, and one more. And then after those 4 weeks are done, students have a sense of, how do you model a problem? So if you have, a broken road, then like what are the different factors that might have caused that broken road? What are the different factors that you need to understand to develop a solution for the broken road? Right? And how do you collect data on all these different factors, and how do you put all those data in conversation with each other and come up with an insight? So students develop that skill over the first 4 weeks by going through these modules with their instructor. And then the students come up with a problem that they are passionate about, and then they do the exact same thing on that problem. And they're guided by an individual mentor for the next 4 weeks to do that. And along that time, they also present to each other, they get some peer feedback, and they end up with a 1,000-word research note. So they build these fundamental skills in research and problem solving, as well as presentation and writing. And at the same time, they're getting exposure to a wide range of problems, and they're also kind of going in deep into one problem, which is something that they care about. So that is RECO Spark, and we have 4 different versions of this course that are being offered in the fall, winter, spring, and summer of 2025 to 2026. And that's only for grades 8 and 9. For grades 10 to 12, we have 2 courses. So one is called RECO Reads, and it's a one-on-one course for 2 months where you're paired up with a mentor who's usually a PhD student in your field. And you read a curated selection of texts that are tailored to your interests and your level. And the goal here is to genuinely be able to read at the level that colleges expect you to. But then the question is, how do you show that, right? How do you show that to colleges? So firstly, we record almost all of our sessions. So because we want to be transparent in what we're doing. So you can submit those recordings to colleges, but obviously colleges may not have the time to look at all of that. So what we also get you to do is create a project. And you can create one of 3 different types of projects. So the first is a research proposal, which is something that you should do before you do a research paper. Because the research proposal is all about, getting a really solid understanding of what academic literature is in your very specific niche field. And then designing a research study and explaining the methods that you're going to use. So that, and all of that's really important because this is the actual process of, if you go to a PhD program and you want to do a research paper, you have to make a pitch as to how you're going to do it and why it's important. And then the university will fund you, right? So that's what we're teaching you here. It's like, how do you design a research study and how do you explain its importance and then go on to do the research study. So that's the first option for the project. The second project option is meant for students who more want to kind of communicate with the public. People who sort of want to kickstart their like young thought leader journey in a way. So you write a blog of about 12 to 1,500 words or more. There's never a word limit at RECO. And or you can write a series of LinkedIn posts, which are all sort of based on academic texts that you've read. So for example, we have a student right now who's writing an opinion piece on how the government should manage girls' education based on data and sets and other scholarship that she's read. And the third option is an annotated bibliography, which is not something that we're used to. It's a very well-regarded academic document in which you basically read the most influential texts in your field. And then you write about 300 to 400 words on each of these texts. So students in this track will be reading Nobel laureates, will be reading people like Raghuram Rajan, people who you typically don't read when you're writing a research paper on something very, very specific, but people who have influenced, the field at large. So these are the 3 kind of project options.
Okay. So RECO Spark, RECO Reads, and the third one was
yeah. So the third one is actually really interesting. We haven't released it yet. So the applications for this course, it's called RECO Writes. The applications are opening in Jan 2026. And basically it's a completely writing focused course. That's also quite selective. So students are going to work one-on-one with a mentor to write 6,000 plus words on any topic of their choice. And what we're doing is that we're actually encouraging them to break up the 6,000 words into 3 different pieces of writing. So one will probably be a 1,000-word piece, maybe an op-ed or a narrative, The second will be a 2,000-word piece, which could be like a review of a book, or a critical essay on a particular topic. And the third one is a 3,000-word piece. So maybe you sort of look at The Economist or something, write an article kind of in that style, which is highly academically informed, but also for the public. And I think what this does is that it shows universities that you have diverse writing styles, you have multiple dimensions to your personality, and you can actually look at a particular topic from multiple different angles, like from an op-ed angle and from a research explainer angle, etc. And I think so that's great for college applications. But I think what's really, really great for students is that I think it gives them a lot of permission to express themselves intellectually in ways beyond research papers. And I think research papers are great for a lot of students, but for many students, it's not the only way that, I mean, it's not the best way for them to kind of communicate their intellectual ability. So it's just an alternative.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think putting your thoughts on the paper is also very important. It's not always everything valuable will come out of a research. I mean, a lot of fantastic things come out, but this is very, very interesting. So I'm like, all these programs sound exciting to me, and I'm sure the students will end up learning a lot uh, through these programs. So,
I hope
Paritosh,
so.
uh, uh, what gaps in the mainstream high school education did you see that you are trying to address through your programs?
I think from a learning outcome standpoint, probably three main ones. One is reading. So when I went to college, I was asked to read so much stuff that I had never read before, like read Genesis of the Bible in a week. That's very, very difficult to do. I'd never read the Bible, and the language of Genesis, the original language, even if it's translated into English, is really difficult to understand, right? And it's not about just being in, that's not because I was in religion. I mean, you can go you can be a biology major and you will have to be able to read some social theorists, some political theorists, right? Because we all live in a social and political society as well. We are civilians. So those reading skills were just completely not built in me during school. And I think like that's a big one that we're trying to build at RECO. Also helping students understand, um, that there's so much scholarship out there and that reading is really something that colleges value for a reason. And I think that that's also completely tied up with critical thinking. It's not just being able to like literally read, like you can't read a memo and say that you develop the reading skills at college are looking for. You have to be able to develop the ability to ask critical questions of that reading, etc. as well. So the second thing I think is the elective system. So when we're in school, we in the 10th grade have to choose which stream we want to go into in the 11th and 12th. If you're on the IB or Cambridge system, you have to choose whichever subjects you want. And that's pretty much it. Like after I chose chemistry higher level, I didn't really choose anything more within that course, right? For 2 years in the IB. But when you go to university in the US or a liberal arts style university anywhere in the world, then you have to choose your courses every term, and you have to choose 4 courses probably every term. And there are thousands of job options to choose from. And everybody's talking about how one subject is connected to a different subject, right? And these subjects might be things that you've never heard of, like anthropology or computational biology. And at the same time, they might have something to offer you. So to expose students to these wide range of fields, I think is really important, and help them understand the connections between these different fields so that they can make better choices in college. I think that's the second main gap. And I think the third one is more a structural thing. There's so many really intelligent PhD students in the country and outside the country who are very interested in teaching high school students. Just because why not? I mean, these students go into PhDs because they want to become professors and teachers, right? And it's always a bit scary but they want to become professors and teachers. And I think I want to create a system where they can communicate with high schoolers more, so that high schoolers learn what it's like to do research and at the university level as well.
So fantastic. So reading, and absolutely, I think it's a such an important skill, and not just simple plain reading and not absorbing, but reading,
Mm.
thinking critically of what you are reading. Number one. Number two is being able to select or identify what you're interested in. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what elective system or elective courses are all about. Is that you understand, having an understanding about yourself and what matters to you, and then being able to select that one course out of so many options out there. And third thing is, of course, having access to researchers and being able to work with PhD level students at a high school level. I think it's very important, and doing that in a nice, structured manner. Absolutely. So I think that's some really valuable additions or valuable features that you have at RECO,
Thank you.
Paritosh. Now, as you think about growing it, as you think about expanding your programs, how are you thinking about growing without losing quality? How can project based and discussion heavy programs be scaled without losing the essence of the programs?
I think it's such a important and very difficult question. It's really a tough question. Um, I think that first thing I'd like to say is that, I think we often think that the smaller the class size, the better. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think one-on-one stuff has a place, group discussions in 4 have a place, group discussions in 16 have a place, and even like larger lecture style educational settings have a place. So I really think that all of these are important, and we should just understand that, because I think oftentimes we always just want to go for a personalized option, but learning with other people is also really important. So I think some skill can come in through that only. Um, but beyond that, I really think that we need very solid teacher training programs, and that we have to, empower parents to also become educators of their students, their children. And I think we also need to invest a lot in figuring out how to manage peer learning, um, because only if we look at education as something that's not just happening in a school, but it's happening at home, it's happening when high school students are, awake at 1 a.m. in the night during a sleepover. It's also happening in school with their teacher. Like, that's the only way I think that we can truly scale in terms of, and of course, class size is also, like, having a small sort of class size is important, I think. So I mean, on the one hand, like, there is a place for large class sizes, but at the same time, we also need to ensure that people do have that kind of one-on-one attention. And that's only going to be possible if we have more numbers of good educators, whether they're a parent or a senior student or like a teacher, right? And I think we should really do a lot of research on this in this field. I mean, um, to come up with training tools, to come up with teaching tools, things that can be used to sort of scale training programs for teachers. I think that all is really important too. I don't know so much about how AI can help with this, but I really feel a lot of promise. If I was just having a discussion about RECO with one of my friends who is also from Stanford and studied CS, and she was saying that AI could do a really good job in matching students with mentors. That would be a huge thing for RECO. So I think if people can build out tools where they can help match people to others who could be good mentors for them, I think that would really be. And if anyone's watching this podcast and is doing something like that, please reach out to me. I'd love to know more.
Superb. So I think what I've really found very relevant and important is understanding that different kinds of learnings happen in different sizes of groups, right? Like there is a place for a one-on-one versus a one, let's say a group of 4, group of 16. Absolutely, I think you're spot on with that, and I think it's we can certainly structure a lot of programs by varying the sizes of the groups, and while you grow it, you can certainly experiment with different
Yeah.
group sizes to see how the group dynamics for different groups work. And uh, absolutely, I think teacher training is important. So I think these and the use of AI, of course, wherever and whenever you find it relevant. So yeah, I think those are some very interesting and relevant ideas. So good luck to you and all the best in growing these programs. And I look forward to having, I'm sure many more students will benefit from the programs that you build.
Thank you.
Almost coming towards the end of the session, Paritosh. So, any final piece of advice to the students or the parents who are watching this podcast?
Okay. No, firstly, thanks so much for having me, Devesh. I don't know, like, about advice. I think that just one thing to remember is that colleges are trying their best to find students who they are convinced are actually prepared to thrive in college. So the most important thing to show colleges if you want to get in is that you're prepared. So do the work, build the skills, and then you have the highest chance of showing that you're prepared.
Superb. Thanks for that advice, Paritosh. And how can students and parents get in touch with you and participate in one of your programs?
Sure. So our website is recoeducation.com, RECOEDUCATION.com.
Yeah.
So if you can go on that website, you can look at all our courses there. We've got videos of our instructors interacting with our students and everything about students' projects as well. And you can click the WhatsApp button or the email button and just directly get in touch with us. Or you could also book a consultation where we can take you one-on-one through our courses and sort of think about what your personal journey in those courses will be.
Fantastic. Superb. This was such an insightful conversation. Paritosh, thank you so much for spending this time with us. And I really loved hearing your thoughts on the importance of reading and understanding about, you know, uh, I mean the how you put forward, like understanding electives and selecting the kind of courses which are important for you. So that's very important. But thank you so much, Paritosh, for your time with us this morning. Yeah.
Thank you, Devesh.
Thank you. Different kinds of learning happen in different sizes of groups, right? Like there is a place for a one-on-one versus a one, let's say a group of 4, group of 16. Absolutely. I think you're spot on with that. And I think it's we can certainly structure a lot of programs by varying the sizes of the groups. And while you grow it, you can certainly experiment with different
Yeah.
group sizes to see how the group dynamics for different groups work. And